So this is going to be operation number 3 in Delphi Central. I don't know how many more there's going to be, but this week we have got 3 and possibly a 4th character that are going to join us later. And I thought we'd get started. We're actually going to get started in the top of an office building in Qatar, and 3 of you at least have gathered together: Krakentor and Alster and Dr. Merritt in this top floor, just huge high rise that's towering over the desert building, where Diana Porter, who has provided the other briefings for you in the past on behalf of Delphi Central, is meeting with you. But before she comes in to meet with you, you got a chance to kind of introduce each other and get to know each other. So why don't we start with Larkin, and then we'll go around to the other 2. Just let you tell a little bit about your character and your experiences so far in the Torg universe.
Sure. Dr. Larkin Merritt. He's a Victorian, follower of the Cicelo his entire life. Very faithful, but his faith is strongest in science, occult science, of course. He fights the horrors of Rorsch, studies the monsters scientifically, even in the middle of a fight. He used to be in the 1st Regiment, the Choir Boys, but he resigned his commission to study the science of these invaders and fight them along with the other Storm Knights. And he was able to help in Taiwan to shut down a research station, which ended kind of strangely trying to find a cure for the Jiangxi infection. It didn't really work well, but he learned a lot from it.
Like, don't trust anybody in Pan Pacifica.
Yeah, nobody.
All right, Krakentor.
Yes, Krakentor is from the Gold Sun tribe that invaded the Yucatan. While there, kind of his moment of crisis, and broke with Baraka, and has been out on his own. He wants to explore stations as he can for Lanala, and he's realized that having to group up with humans and other people to get him to places is his best bet. So kind of join the Delphi Council because they take him places.
Okay. And I guess that gets us now to Robert's character. Yeah, Alster.
Okay. Alster is a core Earth teenager. He was in France on a exchange program, study abroad program, when France was transformed, and he didn't transform with it. And he got to Germany, got to a German embassy there, and discovered that his home had been taken over by the Living Lands. And it wasn't long before the Delphi Council grabbed him, because he was obviously somebody that wasn't transforming, and they've been trying to figure out how to use him.
Right. And so this his first assignment?
I'm thinking it's his first assignment.
Yeah. Okay. So about this point, Diana Porter comes in, glasses, very no-nonsense, long, straight hair, and moves up to the front of the briefing room, standing in front of you. And she says, "Thank you for coming to meet with me on such short notice. We have a very urgent matter that requires your attention this afternoon, and that needs to be resolved before midnight tonight." And with that, a screen comes down behind her. She hits a remote control, and you start looking at satellite imagery of the area around Mumbai. She says, there have been a series of Gosbog fields. I'm sure you're all familiar with what those are by now, that have been created outside Mumbai. And they are starting to change from something of a nuisance to the locals to something that's going to threaten some of the surrounding zones. The zone where Mumbai is located right now, she says, is pure Aurortian zone, but the others nearby are mixed, which means at least there's some hope for core Earth reality to continue to assert itself in them. But with the growth of these Gospog fields and the inevitable use of them to terrorize and attack people in the surrounding zones, it's only a matter of time before some of the zones nearby are going to begin to transform as well. So they've used 3 of these fields so far, and a 4th one is emerging near town. And again, you just see slide after slide showing these fields from above. All of our efforts at using conventional means to try to get rid of them just don't seem to work. The technology fails. Nothing has been successful in destroying these things before the Gospog emerge. Something's got to be done. And she says there's a rumor that the Victorians have some sort of ritual that they can follow that can undo these fields. It's some kind of purification ritual. And Larkin might even have known about this, or at least heard rumors about rituals that can be performed on Gospog fields before. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's fascinating. There has to be a way to stop them before they emerge.
She says, indeed. There are rumors, in fact, of a particular Victorian that's located in a small settlement that's just outside of Mumbai. And now the satellite imagery kind of turns around and it focuses on this particular settlement. Your job is to get into that settlement, to find somebody, hopefully, that knows about that ritual. As our rumors are indicating, that knowledge exists somewhere within the settlement. And then attempt to use this ritual on this field before Gospog begin to emerge. We think it's going to begin to happen tonight around midnight.
My word, how can we get there that quickly?
We can get you very, very quickly into India within the next couple of hours. And it'll only be another hour's journey from there to this village. So you're going to have time. But it's not going to be a great deal of time. You're going to need to hurry as quickly as you can.
What time is it right now?
It's about noon. So you can expect to get there at about 3 or 4 p.m.
And we have no idea who is the person that knows this.
We don't. You can probably expect it to be some type of clergy that's within the village, but the only thing we know is that several people have come out of that settlement talking about how there's someone in there that has this knowledge.
So it's a religious ritual.
It's a religious ritual, yes.
We should make haste before it gets dark.
Now, you do have an opportunity before you leave. If you want to, you have an opportunity to persuade the council to try to send you with some equipment. If there's any in particular gear you think you might be interested in, now's the time to talk to them about it.
I would like to requisition some gas lanterns for everyone.
Okay. That won't be difficult to do. They can arrange for you to have gas lanterns on site without you having to make any kind of a roll.
Okay.
That's a very common item within Aurortian reality, so that's not going to be difficult for them to do for you.
Yeah, I'm all set. I think unless you guys have something we can quickly requisition,
I don't have anything.
I think I have what I need.
Okay. So over the course of the next... So we're now transitioning out of the first scene, and with that you can, if you want, discard one of your Destiny cards and pick up another one. And you're also free to go ahead and try and trade if you like.
Okay. How do you discard?
All you got to do is select the card that you want to discard, and delete it.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'm going to deal you Rorschach Cosm cards.
Okay. One more question. How do,
Sure.
Since I haven't done the card yet, how do you delete a card?
You may have to put it onto, I don't know if you can do it out of your hand. You might have to drag it onto the, now you should be able to see an area of the screen that we use for card display. You may have to drag it out into that area of the board, like drag it out of your hand and onto that part of the board, and then select it and then delete it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just like that.
Okay.
So this, now you can see on this screen now, just to kind of give you a feel for your way around on it. We got a bonus chart in the world laws up in the upper right hand corner. Whenever a drama card is in effect, it will always be in the upper right hand corner. And then if you can, whenever you need to show a card or trade a card or put a card on the table, try to get it out in the player card display area so it doesn't cover anything else up. And then the bottom of it, I'll actually go ahead and show you here. I'll keep a tactical map.
Okay. Now that I have this card out, how do I get rid of it?
Just select it and then hit the delete key. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. And I can also do it for the Destiny card that I don't want in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then you can just pull another card off the Destiny deck.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and put your tokens out on the map at the bottom. So about 4 hours later, at about 4 p.m. local time, you find your way walking into this small Victorian settlement with they're kind of winding down their day here. Maybe people that have been out gathering water or food are starting to bring it back into their homes. There's a few tents. There's a few houses with kind of thatched roofs, fairly primitive, but mostly because it's been put up very quickly. They haven't had a whole lot of time to do much construction. Small road goes through the middle. And they look at you kind of strangely, especially Krakentor, as you begin to walk into the village. Mostly they're wondering who these two people are that are with Larkin, who is, of course, one of theirs. But in particular, they're a little suspicious of Krakentor.
I make a point to talk to Krakentor in a very friendly manner and make sure everyone knows that these are my friends, and smile a lot.
So you go ahead.
Oh, I want to go on and play a card.
Okay.
Because it's something that I think will become... let me get back up to the player card area.
Okay.
And there it is. Connection.
Okay. So, yes. In fact, you see... So this was James, right?
That was me. Robert.
Robert, okay. So, so let's imagine what kind of connection you might have in this village. Do you have any ideas? I mean, I can throw one out, but do you have any ideas about what it might be?
Truthfully, not right this second.
Okay.
I have a couple ideas coming up, but...
Okay. So in your journeys and training with Delphi, you have run into 2 or 3 people that are Victorians that have wandered out into core Earth. And one of them happens to be this rather stout-looking lady that is carrying a large basket down the street right now. You know her to be actually one of the leaders among the Victorians and someone that kind of has come from the outside. And you've run into her at a couple of training sessions that have been provided to you by Delphi.
Okay.
Her name is Lee, L-E-I, or L-E-E.
Okay.
And you just see her coming down the street straight ahead of you.
Okay. Look over Dr. Larkin. Doc, there's a lady over there, Lee. She has some pull with the Victorians. She might be able to help us.
Right. Well, let's talk to her. Maybe she can point us in the way of the clergy. I assume there's a chapel nearby, a cathedral or something.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is. Looks like there's kind of a dirt road that tends to lead off to the side, just ahead of you, and into something that looks a little bit like a chapel, very makeshift.
Okay, well, let's walk over to her first and chat with her. And while we're doing that, I'm going to play this because it's fun.
All right. Okie doke. Okay. Give me just a second. I'm not 100% sure on how to do a whisper roll, so I'm going to actually physically roll a d20. I'll be right back.
When you make the GM get up to roll it.
All right, here we go. Okay. All right, so you come up to her and say something to the effect of "Good day." Okay, all right, that's fine. And she actually isn't she's not looking at you. She's not really paying attention, and she screams and she drops her basket in front of her, and all of these birds come just kind of scattering out of it, just kind of flying up all around you everywhere, and you kind of paw at the air trying to clear yourself of them, but they don't seem to be a threat other than that, and they end up flying off. And she says, "Well, there goes dinner for the next week. Thanks a lot." And you all get a possibility.
Okay.
Maybe we could take you out to dinner or help you with your shopping later. And I introduce myself. I am Dr. Larkin. I put my gun back away that I threw.
She says, "Good day to you, sir." And then she looks over at Alster and says, "This young man, he looks familiar to me."
We met about a month ago.
And she kind of looks at him a little warily for a moment, and then she says, Yes, I remember that. It was at Delphi training, somewhere in the Americas, wasn't it?"
Yes, it was.
"So," she says, what kind of business does Delphi bring to our small settlement today?"
We're looking for someone. I look over to Dr. Larkin, Dr. Merritt. We're looking for someone who knows how to purify things.
Some priest, perhaps. Someone well versed in the rituals of the occult against the darkness.
She says, "Someone well versed, that would be Brother Gillen in the chapel right over there." She points to the door leading into that chapel that you spotted a few minutes ago over here. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you, though I'm not sure how much help he's going to be willing to be.
Perhaps you could help convince him to assist us.
If nothing else, if you could introduce us to him.
She says, "Certainly, I'll come along with you and introduce you." Come on, the sunlight's fading. I like to be in by the time the sun goes down. And she starts walking toward the door to the chapel.
Looking over to Dr. Merritt. Everyone talks about the night here. What is it really that bad?
Well, I didn't requisition these lanterns for nothing.
Okay.
And she kind of bangs on the door to the chapel for a moment, and finally, a gentleman with a beard and a scar on his face, gray beard, an older gentleman, opens the door and says, "Yes, what is it?" Then Lee speaks up and she says, "These visitors, they're storm knights, come from Delphi. They want to talk to you." And he just kind of looks at all of you suspiciously and says, "Talk to me."
We're here about the gospel fields. We hear you may have a purification ritual.
And he just kind of looks down at the ground and looks back up to you and says, "Oh, I see. Come on in and we'll talk." And he invites you to come on into this building where he's got, and he leads you back to an office kind of in the back of the building.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I don't know.
He's a little uncomfortable having these non-Victorians inside of his chapel, but you can tell he's going to put up with it at least for now. He sits down behind his desk and says, "So, what is it you want to know about this ritual?"
Well, we want to perform it. We want to stop these gospel fields before they hatch.
And he looks straight at you and he says, "Tell me, why would you wish for a death of that nature?"
What do you mean by death?
He says, "The ritual exists. There's no doubt about it." And he kind of leans back behind him and he pulls this old leather-bound prayer book off of the shelf and sets it out in front of him and starts thumbing through till there's these 2 pages that have handwriting. Like, most of it's printed, but there's a couple of pages in it that just have all of this handwriting that's in something that looks like Latin to you. And he says, "I've seen it attempted 3 or 4 times on these cursed fields. It's never ended well for the person trying to invoke it."
What happened?
They're either killed or, worse yet, they succumb to the temptations of the darkness that's all around them.
Well, I kill those monsters. That's my job. So let's have it. And when do we perform the ritual?
He says, "That's the problem. It has to be performed at midnight, just as the Gospog begin to emerge."
What does the ritual involve?
You need to stand in the field, you need to open the book, and you need to read the Latin loudly and fully until the entire thing is finished. Don't expect everything in the shadows to take this attempt lightly when you do it.
My Latin is a bit skittish since I haven't attended Mass in so long. Brother Gillen, would you be willing to help us perform this ritual?
And he just kind of leans back in his chair and he chuckles. It's clear he's reluctant about it.
Yeah, I didn't take Latin, so I'm not sure if I can read it well.
I don't think I can read.
Can try to convince Gillen here to join us. Look, if you don't do this, they're going to assault this village. Eventually, it will fall anyway. Your lives and the lives of everyone here are forfeit unless you help us. This is your one best shot. This is Providence arriving right now at this moment.
Okay. So go ahead and let's make a persuasion check.
Does anybody have anything in cards appropriate? While I'm thinking about
I can give you a supporter.
I'm gonna go ahead and roll and see what I get.
So what you're going to need is an 11.
Okay. I have a charisma of 7, so no persuasion skill, so we'll give it a shot. So 13. So that's only an 8.
I can give you this. They'll give you +3.
That's still, but it's got to be 11. Right?
It's an 11, so that if you've got an 8 right now, that would do it.
I just kind of look sorrowful.
And I'll give you whichever card you want. I got look at
No, I played this one
Oh,
on
that's
you.
right. That's play. Okay. Good deal.
So that brings you up to 11.
We'll go with that.
All right, so he sighs and looks at you in a somewhat forlorn way and says, "Very well, I'll go with you. I'm assuming you want to go tonight."
Time like the present.
Might even get another scar. Yes.
He says, "Very well. Give me a few minutes. I want to go speak with my family, maybe my last opportunity, and then we'll head out."
That's fine. The sooner we leave, the better. If we can get to the fields before it gets dark, that would be even wonderful.
So as he's rising up from his desk, you suddenly hear this horrible screaming outside in the village. Dusk is setting in on the village right now. And just one person after another person after another person just screaming out in terror. And you hear a lot of panicking and just the sound of things being strewn about and falling and hitting. It's just like something terrible has suddenly arrived inside this village. You're not quite sure what it is.
See what I said about it being dark? I light a lamp and go outside. See where this is all coming from.
I'll light a lamp and follow.
Okay.
I will not light a lamp and follow.
All right. So what you see when you step out is you see probably 6 or 7 or 8 of the kind of soldiers that patrol and walk through the city, and they're all just lying dead at various points in the street. And you can see what Larkin will immediately recognize as an Aurorian vampire that is standing kind of in the middle of them. Blood is everywhere. Carts have been turned over. Windows have been broken in. And she looks up and looks straight at this. Did all three of you come out?
Yes. I gotta move out.
Looks straight up at you and says, "So," she says, "it is true. Storm Knights have dared to come into this dark part of the world at night. What is your business?"
You should be the one that's afraid, monster. Our business right now is to kill you.
And she just laughs with this really hearty laugh and says, I don't think that's going to happen, especially not right now. Your time here is going to be very short. You should go home while you can.
Well, I'd like to take a shot at it.
Okay. Let me go ahead.
Actually, first, now that I think about it, I'll use the one miracle item, Ward Enemy.
Okay.
I was thinking about that too.
This is the opportune, dramatic time to do it. And
Alright, I'm going to look up. While you're doing that, I'm going to look it up.
yeah, pull out the cross and say, "Be gone from here, vile beast."
Alright, give me just a second here.
Yeah, I've got it on my power sheet here. I'm looking at myself.
I can just copy and paste it to the chat.
Yeah, I've got it. I'm just it's just taking me a minute to pull it up.
On my character sheet.
Okay.
I got a 16 total. So that's a good result.
So while it's active, all allies within 5 meters add +1 to their defenses.
Actually, if it's good, it's a +2.
And did you get a good result? It's a DN10, so. Alright, so you can all add +2 to your defenses during this scene. And somebody is going to fire a weapon at her? Is that...
Changed my mind. I figured I'd be the Ward Enemy this round, so that's similar rounds.
Alright.
Is she like movie vampires?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she looks...
I'm just asking Larkin.
Oh, okay.
I'm familiar with these movie pictures that you refer to.
Hey, hang on just a second. It's Becca. Can you call her? Okay. So I'm trying to. So I've got the drama card out, and somebody else who wanted to take a. Was that Larkin that was taking an action?
I was gonna shoot at her, but then I thought better of it and did the Ward Enemy instead.
Okay. All right. So you get that out, but we are in a standard scene, so the villains are going to go first in this, and she just hang on a second. We got Eugene coming in, so once he connects, we'll kind of get him up to date.
Very good.
So she just looks at you and smiles and laughs, and then all of a sudden there's just kind of this poof, and you see like dozens of rats on the ground where she was standing, and they all just kind of scatter everywhere from where she was and vanish kind of into corners and parts of the jungle that's around the village and different things. And at about that same moment, all of these soldiers that she killed, about 6 of them just begin to kind of stand up. And you can see they have this look in their eyes. You can see the fangs on their face. They've been transformed.
Oh, that's not good.
And so there's 2 of them here. And 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 hey, there's Eugene. And I'm going to get him, give me just a second, I'm going to get him a Discord link here.
Yeah, I'm going to take this opportunity at AFK. Just,
Okay.
But just be a minute, but it seems like a good opportunity to do that.
Okay, he's got it. There he is. We're not able to hear you yet.
There we go.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Hey, Eugene, how's it going?
All right. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, just so you're aware, we're Twitch streaming right now. Here we are right now. Here's where we're at. Your group of Storm Knights has journeyed into a village near Mumbai that is it's a Victorian village, and they've come in search of a ritual that can be used to purify a nearby Gospog field that is threatening the area. They've persuaded a local clergyman by the name of Brother Gillen to go with them to the Gospog field and attempt the ritual, although he's never seen it completed with success. Always it's led to either madness for the person that's trying to invoke it or death, and sometimes both. So he's reluctantly agreed to go, but in the meantime, a vampire has shown up and killed about 8 Victorian soldiers and turned them into thralls. She is herself transformed into a swarm of rats and disappeared into the jungle, leaving you all behind to deal with the thralls. And that's where we're at right now. Did I leave anything out, guys?
No, that sounds good.
Good summary.
So right now we are in the middle of the villain's turn, and what they are going to do, they're going to have to use their movement. They're going to have to use double movement to engage with you, but they're each going to run up. One's going to engage with Alex. Another one's going to run up and engage with Alstair, and then one with Krakentor, and then one with Larkin. And I'm going to attack for each of them, but they'll have -2s on that because they had to move into range. So let's start with the one that's attacking Alex.
Do we still get the bonus to defense because of the miracle?
Yes, they're still undead, so it's going to have the same effect. So the first one is obviously not going to hit. That's a -10 on their unarmed combat. The second one, which is attacking Alstair, is going to roll still only a 12, which is -4. So their total unarmed combat total is a 5. Is your unarmed combat higher than that?
My unarmed is right now a 10.
Okay, all right. And you're not right now. At least you're not wielding a melee weapon, so that's what you'd use for defense.
Mm-hmm.
So now the next one's going to attack Krakentor. And so his total is going to be 9 plus 8. He's going to have a 17, then -4 is going to be a 13 total against Krakentor's unarmed combat.
The miracle, I have a 15 currently.
Okay. So they seemingly have an advantage on him, but somehow he manages to duck and dodge and get around the attack. And then the final two are now going to attack Larkin. And their total is going to be a 6 against whatever Larkin's unarmed combat is.
It's a 7.
All right, so they all rush forward and they're very furious in their thrusts and attacks, but none of them manage to land any blows. And with that, we now get to the hero's turn. And the first thing we're going to do on your turn is we're going to apply the setback.
We also get cards for successfully defending.
Well, you have to actively defend to get a card for successfully defending. Oh, incidentally, we need to get Eugene his cards. All right, so Eugene, you use the pool card to divide up. If you arrange your hand by all instead of by deck, then you can put your hand cards on the right of your pool and your pool cards on the left. But since nobody actively defended, no, that doesn't help you. So for the setback, we're going to, because you're just walking out of the house, you're kind of pinned back against the house, and you have successfully avoided these attacks, but you don't have a lot of maneuvering room. And so for the setback, I'm going to actually, you're going to be stymied for any kind of actions that you take during your turn. And with that, each of you get a turn.
Who wants to go first?
Mine's going to be easy attack on one that just attacked me.
Okay.
I think if you want, I'll try to trigger him first.
20. Then
Nice.
that is a 10 bonus. So 23 to hit.
Okay, so that's Krakentor against their unarmed combat, which is 9. So that's an outstanding result. Now there are 2 of them. So are you trying to affect only 1 or 2?
If 2 are close enough, I'd like to go for both of them.
Okay, it would still be an outstanding result even on 2 of them.
And I can't remember, do you just roll once for damage or separately for damage on each one?
So, yeah, you roll separately for damage. So just give me the first one and then the second one.
Is 8 bonus plus 15, so 23.
Okay. So that's more than enough to take him out. You just kind of tear into him and he falls backwards.
Next one.
And that would be, what, a 21, I guess.
At 21.
Which will also be enough to take that one out. So this ferocious counterpunch from Krakentor, and 2 of these thralls fall down at his feet. And we are ready. Is that all for Krakentor's turn? You've still got movement if you want to use it.
I think I'll just stay here for now.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So I've got 2 of them on me, right? And my my back is up against the door of the chapel?
Yes.
Okay. Think I'd like to, if I can open the door and step into the chapel, step away from him.
Okay.
And then shoot him. I think that leaves me vulnerable, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do that, get out of range of him, yell, "This is holy ground, how dare you," and shoot him.
Okay, are you firing it too?
You know what? I'm going to try to fire it too. Why not?
Okay.
That's why not. So I'm going to go ahead and use a possibility because we earned an extra possibility. So that's 7. It's going to be -2, right? Because I'm stymied. So
Right.
5 plus 10 is 15.
Okay. And their unarmed combat is 9, so that is a good result.
Okay. And
I guess their dodge is. I guess they're using dodge because you moved away out of engagement, so that's a 10, but it's still a good result.
okay. So it's 17 on each one of those.
And that is enough to take both of them out. So boom, boom, they both fall to the ground.
That's rather satisfying.
And of course, all the Victorians are standing around in horror watching their loved ones get shot and killed a second time.
Alistair will just go in and light two of the vampires in front of him on fire. So.
Okay.
That's a 19. That's a +6, so that's an 18 against their dodge.
And then we have -2 because you're stymied, so it'd be a 6.
No, I've already taken.
You took that one in? Okay.
And I also am doing 2, so I already took that into account.
Okay. So what kind of attack is this?
Pyrokinesis.
Oh, okay. So that is going to be, you said a 16 or a 19 against their dodge?
Hold on. This is a +6, so that's 18 against their dodge.
Yeah, so that is a good result.
Okay, so my base damage with this is 14. So against the first one, 6, so that's 20. And against the second one, actually, that's 6, 5, that would be 6. So that'd be 20 on that one.
Okay.
And the second one, it'll be 17.
All right, so in both cases, that is enough to create the wound. So you just kind of set them both afire, and they go spinning around for a moment and fall to the ground, kind of screaming and twitching. And I guess that gets us to Alex.
All right, so I suppose she'll be using the shotgun on the one in front of her.
Okay, so she can do that, but she's going to have to disengage first and become vulnerable.
Yep. So she will have to step back in order to do that. She doesn't.
Okay.
I think that's going to be her best bet. And so then I roll her melee combat.
Are we
fire combat? Yes.
Are we attacking 1 or 2?
Am I wrong in seeing only one on the screen near her?
Well, it represents 2. If you look at the blue field on the token, that tells you that there's 2 of them.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, I guess she'll try to shoot 2 with the shotgun. All right. So the roll is a 14, and the skill is a 14. see. How many minuses do I have on this for?
You have a
being stymied?
just -2.
Okay, so help me calculate that out. Let me go find the bonus chart here. Thanks. All right, so the 14 plus, what is that? Can you help me for just a moment?
The 14 would give you a +1.
Yep.
So that, and then what is your fire combat skill?
Also 14.
So that'll give you a 15 skill total, -2 because you are stymied, and -2 because you're firing at 2. So that's an 11 skill total against their dodge of 10. So you do get a success.
Great. All right. No bonus die, though, and that's a 14 damage.
Yes. And so 14 damage against a toughness of 9 is just enough for each one of them to take them out. I mean, just barely. So she steps back, dodges, cocks the gun, and boom, boom. And, of course, the whole village is just screaming in terror at everything that they're seeing. It's hard to even take in everything that's happened in the last 3 minutes. But Brother Gillen just kind of walks out and kind of looks at all of the carnage around him and says, just very calmly says, "Let's go. There's not much time left to get there."
Okay.
Quickly perform last rites on these, and then we'll go.
Yeah. All right, so that will be the end of a scene. That means that you can discard. You can, if you don't have 4 cards, you can draw up to 4. Once you've done that, you can discard 1 and then draw another one if you like.
I'm happy with my cards.
And you all just tell me when you're ready. And if you want to talk about trading or anything like that, feel free to do that too.
Okay. I'm ready.
I am ready also.
Yep, me too.
Good to go.
All right. So it takes you a while to kind of make your way through down these dark roads through a lot of jungle until you get to the opening where very clearly you can see this field that's just kind of sitting there in the moonlight underneath you, underneath your feet. And it is massive. And you can see signs of vines and all kinds of just horrible looking things that seem to be growing up in different parts of the ground as you walk through, midnight getting closer and closer. Brother Gillen kind of walks out kind of into the center of the field, and he's got an old pocket watch. He kind of looks at it, waiting for midnight to strike. And the rest of you just kind of have a chance to kind of stand there and look around or do whatever you're like. There's not very much time that's left now. And he's just sitting there with a lantern beside him, kind of getting everything ready. He looks really nervous.
Larkin, is it possible that we're going to be attacked during this?
I would say the possibility is quite high.
Okay. Then I am going to do something to get ready. I am going to start up a telekinetic barrier.
Okay.
10. So that's 23. That will be plus 8. Let me pull up my character sheet. That will be 24 on my kinesis. So.
Can you protect Brother Gillen with this?
I can't spread it out, but it's a 5-meter radius, so I'm going to go stand next to him as I do this. And let's see. I just shut down my character sheet again. The difficulty number is 10, so I am in the outstanding. So we'll have +2 to all of our defenses, and no, +3 to all of our defenses. Physical defenses, not interaction. So dodge, melee combat, and unarmed.
Okay.
And I take that back. I was reading the wrong one itself. So, but I'll still stay near him so I can try to intercept anything.
Okay, just try to kind of step in front of things and defend him.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it was a +3?
Yes, +3.
Okay. So, it gets closer and closer to midnight. There's this full moon that's kind of shining down on the field, but it's still partial darkness, which sometimes can give monsters in or Rorsch bonuses. And Gillen just kind of resignedly looks at his watch and waits for the midnight hour to arrive. And then he stands up when the time comes, and he holds the lantern up in one hand, and he kind of holds his prayer book out in the other hand, and he begins the process of reading through the ritual. And at about the same time, you suddenly hear this squeaking sound, and it's like rats coming from everywhere, just kind of filling the field up in all these different places. And they start kind of running together toward this central point, and then all of a sudden, this vampire appears again and says, "So this is your game. You mean to try and purify the fields. Many before you have thought the same, you know."
I just say rats.
And at about this same point, also you begin to see arms and heads emerge out of the dirt. There's 2 of them over here. And there's another 2 that are over here. And there's another 2 that are down here. So here's the situation. This is going to be a dramatic skill resolution. And you're noticing as he's reading, it just looks like Brother Gillen is going to need some assistance. He's not going to be able to do this by himself. You're going to have to help him with faith tests as he's reading through this. He's not going to roll for anything, but somebody's going to have to succeed in a faith test to help him through each one of these levels, in addition to whatever else that they're doing in combat. This is a dramatic scene, and we do have an A for the first. We have A and B available on the first one.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm standing right next to him. I'm more than willing to do the faith test, because I'm a strong spirit.
I have 1 added faith. I've got a decent spirit. Total 10.
Right now I'm at 13.
So I'll support you.
Actually 15, because this isn't a psionic ability. So I'm at 15. My spirit's a 13. I maxed it.
Nice. Villain, let's see. We go first. That's kind of nice. Villains are fatigued. All
No,
right.
this is a dramatic scene.
Oh, they go first. Yeah. Darn. powerful spells.
So this first one is a 10, a difficulty 10 faith test.
Okay.
And just so you know, it's going to be 3 faith tests of increasing difficulty, followed by a difficulty 18 reality test.
Okay.
That's step D, is going to be a difficulty 18 reality test.
Okay. I pull out my crucifix and I'll get it started. Do you want us to roll the dramatic resolution or the dramatic skills when it comes to the hero's turn?
Yeah, what will happen is on the hero's turn, for one of your actions, you can do multi-actions still, but for one of your actions you'll need to make that faith test to assist him.
Okay.
And so as the Gospog begin to emerge kind of all around you in this field, you can tell she's beginning to, she just kind of develops this really intimidating countenance about her. And she speaks to you all. She says, you know, most people fear death, but when it finally comes to you, it's actually a very pleasant, very beautiful thing. It's something you should embrace. And now she's going to make an alteration check. And that check is a 16, so that's going to be +3. So that's a 20 total. So yeah, compare 20 against your spirit.
Or willpower?
Yeah, willpower if you've got willpower adds.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's a good result against me.
It's a good result against me.
And good against me.
Okay, so it sounds like in every case it's a good result. You are...
Sorry, outstanding for...
Oh, okay. So you are each vulnerable or very vulnerable, respectively. It's just her kind of using vampire mojo on you. And that's her sole action. She's just kind of standing there, kind of using this vampiric gaze on each of you. And as she's doing that, the Gospog each advance on you. They're going to have to take penalties, but they're going to advance on each of you. One of them advancing on Alster, who will try to kind of step in front of Gillen and defend him, leaving Larkin free. And then I'm going to roll attacks for each of them now. They have unarmed combat of 10. So the first one, which is attacking Alex, has a 9, 10, 11 total with the vulnerability.
So you're going to add the vulnerability in?
Yeah, I have the vulnerability added in, so that's an 11. I guess you could do it the other way as well, but yeah, I've added the vulnerability in, and it's 11 a total, including the vulnerability against your unarmed combat.
And that was against Alex, right?
Against Alex, yes. So what is, Alex, what is your unarmed combat?
It is 0 bonus.
But what is the skill? 11. Okay, so it's 11 against 11. So they are going to do their base damage, which is 10 against your toughness.
And my toughness is, where is that? 8.
So that's going to do 2 shock. All right, and now we'll have the 2 Gospog that are attacking Alstair. They have a base of 10, and we're going to give them a bonus of 5 for 15, and then another 2 for the vulnerable. So that's 17, and then another 2 because there's 2 of them attacking combined. So that's a 19 unarmed combat total against Alstair.
10. So they're going to... I have a 10.
So they're going to roll 1 bonus die, and that is going to be a total of 15 damage versus your toughness.
Which is an 8.
Now you've got that defensive.
Yeah, that worked on my unarmed defense, and I
Okay.
already calculated that in.
Okay. So then we have a 15 against a toughness of 8. That's going to create 1 wound and 2 shock.
Okay. I'm going to try to soak this.
All right. Now keep in mind that in Auroche, a standard stoke doesn't stop wounds.
Right. My reality starts as a 16, and then I get a 9, and that is then
I think that's
minus
a
1. So that's
That's a 15, which is enough to actually soak the wound.
okay.
Yeah.
So then we drop a possibility. Okay.
All right. And now we're going to run the attack against Krakentor. So they're going to begin with a 10. And then they're going to get a bonus of 0. And then they're going to get +2 for the vulnerable. And then another +2 for multiple attacks. And so that's going to get them to a 14 against Krakentor's unarmed combat.
And I have a 13.
So then they're going to do 10 damage.
I have a toughness of 12.
All right, so that's, I think that's 1 shock. And that ends the villain's turn, so now we get to the hero's turn. We have Confused, which the effect of that is going to be...
No real effect because we haven't got any cards in our pools yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no effect. So we have hero's turn now.
Okay. I'm
A,
going to...
Are we going to do A and B? I just...
Yeah, I was going to do A and B, but I'm going to first play a Cosm card because I've just been faced with something I've never really seen before. So I'll play Mark of Terror. And I think what it says on there, the white streak of hair, is actually appropriate at this point.
Okay.
Being attacked by these things. Mainly I did it just so I could get the possibility out of it, and...
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of it. Okay, and then I will do the first 2 faith tests.
Okay. So you're going to need the first test.
I'm going to spend a possibility on this.
The first test is a 10, the second test is a 12.
Okay. I'm spending a possibility because I rolled horrible. And so that'll be a 15, which will be a +2. My faith is currently 15, so that will be a 17 on my faith.
Okay. So that is sufficient to pass both A and B. So yes, Gillen is just like totally undisturbed during all this, even though Alstair is totally freaking out with these things that are coming after him out of the ground, as he's just kind of just trying to hold them off and push them away. And so he's able to get quickly through the first couple of parts of this ritual.
I would like to do a multi-action. I'm going to move Larkin so that Kraken Tor's between me and those things.
Okay.
First of all, but then I want to attack this one that is attacking Alistair.
Okay.
And I also want to do intimidate action against it.
Okay.
First. Roll. So my intimidate is 11, so that's a 12 total. I don't know if that'll work against these things, probably not.
Okay, so if you can, James, speak up a little bit more.
I was wondering if intimidating works against them since they're kind of mindless.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a. There's no point in trying to intimidate them because they're mindless.
I would probably know that. Larkin would know that.
Yeah, he would know that for sure.
Can I use that against the vampires? The vampire here?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so what's the difficulty there? Because I've got a total of 12.
So the difficulty against the vampire is going to be a 13.
That figures. So I'll spend a possibility because I really want to intimidate her and try to get her stymied. Just want her to back off and not mess with us while we do this. So that's total 8 plus 11 is 19.
Okay, so that now is a good result.
And actually, it's a little less because it's a multi-action, so 17.
It's no longer a good result, but it is a success. She has an intimidate of 13.
Okay, so yeah, I do want her stymied, and then I'll go ahead and shoot this Gospop that's attacking Alistair.
Okay. So you're going to use the same roll. Yeah, on a multi-action. So what do we have? We've got the...
8 plus 10 is 18. Minus 2 is 16.
So I'm looking at the die total is a 13 and a 12, right?
Yeah, for 25.
So that's 25. That's an odd result, and you're firing into melee here. And so the attack is going to hit a random participant. So I'm going to roll a d6, and if it's a 5 or a 6, it's going to hit Alistair.
It's okay, I've got my medical kit.
You're gonna need it.
All right, so go ahead and roll. What is Alistair? What is your dodge?
My dodge right now is a 10.
A 10, and what was your total? A 17. What was Larkin's total?
It was, let's see, 16.
Okay, so yeah, you're going to roll 1 bonus die.
Sorry about that, mate.
No problem.
At least it was 1.
So that's a 15 total damage.
I think he said his toughness was 8.
Yeah, I have an 8.
So that's a wound and 2 shock.
Okay. I'm going to have to take it for right now.
Okay. All right. So who is next?
I will attack the 2 Gospel next to me.
Okay. So is this Krakentor or Alex? I'm sorry, I'm still trying to learn voices.
That's fine. Krakentor.
Okay.
Oh, 13, 11.
So you have an 11 total right now? So that is a success.
Okay. Damage is 15.
So 15 damage against their toughness of 8. Was this a multi-action or a dual? Okay, so that's going to take out both of those then.
I would like to get as close to the vampire as I can.
All right, you can go about half the distance. And I'll tell you why is because we didn't take a penalty for moving above your move. What is your move? It's going to be like 7 or 8 meters. I think it's going to be. I don't think whatever it is. She can. Yeah, he can move. If he's got 10 meters, he can move to engage her after he takes out the Gospog.
I will try to get her attention.
Okay. So Larkin kind of causes her to hesitate a little bit, and then Krakentor comes charging at her. And I think now we just got Alex's turn.
I believe so. So Alex is going to step back. I know that'll make her vulnerable. And fire at the ones in front of her. Now these they count as undead, correct?
Yes, they do.
All right, I cannot stun them, so I will have to use the shotgun again.
Yep.
To try and shoot both of them.
You got to get those wounds. They have a toughness of 8, so they need 13 wounds to kill.
All right, let me see what that is. That's bonus of 0 to plus my fire of 14. Is that going to hit?
Bonus of 0 to fire of 14. Yeah, that's going to hit. They have a dodge of 8, so that's a good result.
All right, so I should take 2 off of that for shooting 2 of them, though, right?
Yes, yeah, multi-attack requires them.
So it'll be 12 then, so it's not good. It's just a standard success.
Okay, and how much damage do you do?
14.
So 14 is still, they have a toughness of 8, and so that 14 is still enough to take them both out with that shotgun.
Great. And then I guess I will approach the. I'm going to stay where I am as long as I'm within that little barrier. I don't want to engage in melee, so I'll stay back where I am now.
Okay. All right, so that is the end of the turn. Now, everybody, don't forget that after you have an action, after you take a turn, you're able to move a card from your hand into your pool. So don't forget to get your cards into your pool. And then with that, we will go to the next turn.
And I can draw a card.
And yes, if you the successful intimidation gets to draw a card.
Okay, before we go, I have a seize initiative card. Do we want this card or do we want to change it?
I don't think we want this one, so we can
Okay. Then I'm going to seize initiative.
Okay.
set that. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be.
Yeah, we're just going to, I think, flip a new card.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't get mine in my pool too, so.
Okay, new card.
Yep.
You want to get rid of this one because I've got Siege Initiative in my pool.
If you want to, I'd love to get something that has the C dramatic resolution.
So we're going to play another C's initiative. Okay. And
that's better.
But no C.
Burn through something that wouldn't have helped us, so that's good.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and roll for Surge. I don't think anybody's got 4 case contradictions here, so you just roll a d20. As long as you don't roll a 1, you're good.
I'm relatively comfortable here in this term.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so like you don't have to roll at all. This is you're on your home turf here. So we begin with the villain's turn, and at the start of this turn, more Gospog start to pull their way out of the soil down here to your south and to your southwest. So so Madison the vampire, who is stymied, is going to attack Krakentor, who's coming straight at her, first off.
And is that, what were we, vulnerable? Is that condition over now?
That condition, yes, that condition is over. And she is going to spend a possibility on this. So that now gives her a 23, which gives her a +8. So her attack is now a 25 total. No, a 23 total because she's stymied. And what is Krakentor's unarmed combat?
13.
So that's an outstanding result. And I only rolled 1, so hang on. That's 4. So that's a damage total of 18.
Okay, so that's 6 damage.
Right, which would be 2 wounds and... No, 6 damage would be 1 wound and 2 shock.
I'll go ahead and try to reduce that
Okay.
ability.
So what is your reality total?
Yeah, I don't think I did anything for that. I'll spend another possibility to up that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I did had a good success.
Okay, so that is enough to eliminate this wound and the shock. And with that, now these Gospog are going to advance on Alex, and there's 2 of them again attacking Alex. Their unarmed combat total is an 18.
That's a good on me.
Okay. And they do 13 damage.
Yeah, that's 5. That's 5 points.
Okay, that's 1 wound, 2 shock.
I guess I'll try to soak that. Sure, I'll roll it to try and add to that. Okay, so I guess that's 18.
Yeah, you get a minimum of 10 on when you spend a possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So 18 gives me, that's plus 5. And then I add that to, hold on. All right, I add that to what to determine whether I soaked it?
The plus 5 to your reality.
Yeah. Which is, I guess that would be 13.
You got a 13 total. So that's enough to soak the shock, but not the wound.
All right. So I took one wound, you said?
Yeah. And ordinarily that would be sufficient, but in Auroche, it's harder to soak wounds.
Right. All right, I needed a good, yeah.
So then this last group of Gospog, this last pair of Gospog are going to advance on Larkin and attack him. Gospog are rolling well tonight. That is a unarmed combat total of 16. No, it's unarmed combat total of 18. Because there's 2.
Okay, I've got my rifle out, so that doubles as a improvised club. So using my melee defense, it's an 8.
Okay, so you're going to roll a bonus die, and they're going to do a total of 11 damage.
I have 10 toughness with my armor. So
That's 2 shock. And that is the end of the villain's turn.
Okay. I think I'm going to do something that hopefully will be...
let me trick the vampire.
Okay.
First, maybe try to get her to be a little more vulnerable for preparatory. I'll tell them that reinforcements are coming. The first regiment's on its way. The choir boys are going to be surrounding you any moment. You better flee for your very ended life.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a 19.
So my trick is 11. So 19 to 6, so that's 17 against her.
That is a success. She has a 15. 3 more points, you would have a good success.
A good success. I can make it very vulnerable, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and spend the possibility. So that's a 29 is a 9. That's, 11 is 20.
Okay, so that gets her... She's very vulnerable now. And is that all Larkin's going to do on his turn?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And more shooting my eyes.
And you can obviously draw a card now. So who wants to go next?
I will go ahead and go. I am going to all-out attack the vampire,
Okay.
which will make me very vulnerable
Okay.
and give me a +4.
And then actually a +8 with the very vulnerable condition.
Correct. 15 plus is a 2. Means 15, a 23.
Okay, she has an unarmed combat of 17, so that is a good result at this point.
And I will for the critical moment, if that's okay.
Okay.
Put all my cards that I have to use immediately or they go away. And the hero card, add to that roll.
Okay.
15 and 16 is a 31 plus 10 plus 8, 18, and 13. Hit it.
Yeah, so what is your total now?
31 should be my total unarmed combat.
Okay, your unarmed combat total against 31 against the 17. That's obviously an outstanding success.
Then I will add a bonus die.
Okay. So you're now rolling 3 bonus die.
All out attack, I'm spending 2 shock points to use my Relentless perk to get another bonus die.
Okay, you're rolling 4 bonus die now.
Let's see if I have anything else. Second wind to get rid of my shock.
Okay.
I'll roll 4 bonus die. Roll 2 BB twice.
Yeah, you can do it that way.
So 7 and 8 is 15, and 15 is 30 total.
30 total. So that's
Yes.
so that's 14 points, which is 2 wounds and 4 shock. So this is like a vicious assault.
Yes. And I say, hope you're happy now.
So yeah, so she kind of falls back into the ground and falls down. You think maybe she's down for a minute, but then she gets back up on her legs and arms and looks up at you and hisses and prepares to launch an attack back at you. So who else needs to go on the hero?
I do.
Yeah.
I will defer to Alex.
Oh, thank you. Alex is actually going to cast haste on herself first.
Okay.
So I need to make an alteration roll.
Okay.
So that would be a 10, which is the standard success difficulty number. So I guess that means I succeeded.
Okay. Yes. Standard success.
And I understand this as applying now, so I can like do a multi-attack or multi-action now and apply. So okay, I will then do what I have been doing, which is step back and take a shot at the foes in front of me.
Okay. I'm going to just put a tag on you to make sure you're marked as vulnerable.
I am vulnerable. Yep. And I'm going to do short burst with my weapon.
Okay.
All right, maybe let's see. That is I get the +2 from the short burst. is the bonus or minus 6. Okay, so that would make it 10. Is that a hit? Because I might play an adrenaline card here.
A 10 against the Gospog. And did you add your multi-attack penalty in? Or maybe it doesn't apply.
I don't get it because I did haste.
That's just enough to be successful. Their toughness is 8. I don't know what your base damage is, but if it's more than 13, that'll be enough to take him out.
It is 14.
Okay.
Excellent. All right.
So Alex, again, with attacking with a shotgun, manages to take down 2 more Gospog. And just kind of barrel continuing to hunt the darkness for more of them to emerge.
Yes.
All right, so we have anybody left now? I think Alistair, maybe. Yeah.
I'm also going to do a moment of crisis because I'm going to be at a lot of minuses. So I'm just going to pull all my cards out. I am going to try to get the rest of the Gospogs and her in pyrokinesis. I am maintaining the barriers that's -2. I have a wound, which is -1. And I'm going to be attacking 5 things, which I think is a 3. -3 to this, or is it -5? I can't remember.
Okay, so you're attacking a total of 5 creatures.
Yep.
It's 1, 2. Are you attacking all the Gospog?
All the Gospogs and the vampire.
So that's actually going to be -8.
-8.
-2 for each one, beginning with the second one.
Okay, then instead of all the Gospogs, the 2 in front of me and the vampire.
Okay, so that would be a -4. Yeah.
Okay, that means I'm at -7 right now. Okay. Of course. I need to do this. So
Okay.
I still have all the things I can do to try to pull this back out, but I will disconnect at the end. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with spinning possibility and do that. Minimum of 10. So that's 11. And then I'm going to use the drama card here. So that will give me one more die 20, and let's see if it gets something more than 1. Okay. So that'll be 23.
Then you've got a +3 on the tail end of it as well.
So the 23 will give me +8 with the willpower. That'll be a +11. Okay, and then -7 off that for to my kinesis, which will give me a 20. Still
A 20 total. Okay, so that'll. So how much? So that's going to be an outstanding result against the Gospog.
Okay.
And what does it go against the dodge?
Dodge.
And that's just going to be a standard result against the vampire.
Okay. Then I'm definitely going to use the coup de grace card on her.
Okay.
And I'll just do standard with the because you said it was an outstanding result.
Yeah, and she is very vulnerable as well. So hang on a second. With her, what did you say your total alteration total was 20? So it actually should be a 24 in her case,
Okay.
Which would be enough to be a good result. So you're going to roll 2 bonus die on her.
Okay. And it was outstanding with the Gospogs.
Yeah, the Gospogs are dead. Yeah.
Okay. And then for her then, that was a 6.
So that's an 8.
And then 2 more.
2 more, 9, 10 plus your base damage.
Which is 14.
So that's 24. That is enough to do another wound to her.
Okay.
She is going to try to soak it.
Okay.
Spending her possibility. And her reality total is not enough. She saves a couple of what did I say? 1 wound, so that's going to be 2 shock. She avoids the shock, but she takes yet another wound. She's knocked back yet again before she can surge again at Krakentor. So she's taken 3 wounds now. Looks very heavily wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And is that now everybody's turn?
I think so.
All right. We are going to go to the next turn. And this time we get...
You go first!
Heroes are going to go first. So she's going to remain very vulnerable during this turn because she hasn't had a turn to get rid of it yet. And so who wants to go?
I yell at Kraken toward duck.
We still do not have the C. The difficulty on that check when it comes up is going to be a Faith 16.
Okay.
Let me finish it off, guys. I got a bullet that's special made for her.
Go for it.
Move out of range. This guy's going to make me very vulnerable. You want to move first, Krakentor, then I can get a clear shot.
Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Okay, so we're Krakentor is going to take his turn first then?
Well, I was hoping he could move out of the way before I shoot.
So there's 2 ways. I mean, he's not engaged with her right now. He knocked her back from his attack, and then also she kind of disengaged during the fire attack as well. At least that's the way I imagined it. So yeah, so you can move that way, become vulnerable, and you're not going to have to deal with the firing into melee issue here.
So I can make my attack if I want to. After, first I should put a card on the roll, I guess. And then, but after I make my attack, I can play for a quick moment if I want to.
Yes, you can wait and declare when you want to play critical moment. Oh! Ouch.
Yeah, it's like a good roll. I've got one possibility left. I've got a hero card. I think I'm going to wait, though. Just makes sense.
Okay.
My turn.
All right, so Larkin kind of rolls away from the Gospog and comes up and tries to fire at the vampire, but he just misses. It just kind of flies off into the darkness.
Oh, we want to probably get something out there, but, you know.
Yeah.
I got another one.
All right, so who's next?
I guess Alex would mind do, actually, with the multi-attack here.
Okay.
Give it a juicy taste. So here comes my roll.
Are you going at the vampire or the Gospog?
Vampire.
Okay.
So I'll do another short burst, which, let's see, that gives me a... Well, so far that's 14. Is that going to hit or no?
14 will not hit. She has a dodge of 16. That hits.
Well, how about I make it 17?
So yeah, so now you hit with the adrenaline card. And so
right,
what?
So that is... That's a damage of 14.
She has a toughness of 16. That will do 2 shock. That'll do 1 shock, I'm sorry.
So my understanding is right, short burst is 3, is just none of the 3 do.
Short burst gives you the bonus to the attack.
The hit.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the damage. All right.
But it doesn't help you on the damage, no. You got to get the good result gets you the bonus die. The outstanding result gets you the 2 bonus die. But you only got a standard success on that one.
All right, so that was my first shot because I wanted to multi-attack.
Right.
Do I roll again? No. Or do I use the same roll?
Oh, okay. So so you were trying to do. You can't multi-attack against the same person. You can do something called an all-out attack, which gives you a +4 at the cost of becoming very vulnerable. Now, what you could do is you could apply this same total, whatever it is, to those two Gospog that are over to the right. Yeah.
Let's do that then.
Okay.
So, and I have no multi-attack penalty, so that would be another... What did I say that was?
You just use the same roll. Yeah, 14 total is a standard success against the Gospog. Actually, it might even be better than that. Hang on. Yeah, no, it's a good success, so you can roll a bonus die with that.
All right, so damage is 15.
15 damage, and that takes one of them out. So one of the two falls over. The other one's still standing there, though. So we got any other heroes still to go?
Yeah, I haven't gone yet.
Okay.
Has the Kraken Torg gone?
I have not gone.
I'll defer to Kraken Torg then.
Okay. For another all-out attack.
Okay.
Yeah. It's probably not going to do that.
So what?
Just miss.
What
just miss.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's going to miss. So you run up, you engage her again, and attack, but without any success.
Okay. I'm thinking my telekinetic barrier went down and I disconnected.
Yeah, you are disconnected. So the first thing you've got to do is
reconnect.
Roll to right and try and reconnect. Yeah.
That'll be 0. My reality score is, I think, a 16. Yeah, 16.
Oh wow. Okay. So.
As I said, spirit was my big thing.
So this is a pure Orochi zone. So it's actually. I want to make sure I'm right about this. I think that's just enough. I don't remember if it's +6 or +8.
I think you're right. I think it is 16.
I'm looking it up right now. Hang on. There is a table there. No, it's an 8 in a pure zone. It's an 18 in a pure zone.
Okay. So I'll have to wait.
Yeah.
Which is I understand. So.
Now, if you could spend a possibility and probably reconnect at that point.
I didn't think I could spend a possibility.
Oh, you're right. You're right. No, you could spend a card, but not a possibility. Yeah. Okay, you're right. So that gets us to. Do we got any other players' turns now?
I don't think so.
Can I hand Elspeth something as a simple action?
Yes, you can.
I'm going to give him an elixir of life.
Okay.
You drink it, it's a simple action. You drink it, it removes all your shock.
So, and he could go ahead and use that now if he wants.
It tastes like bourbon. It's great. Comes in.
Give you the high school kid drunk. Okay.
Now, another thing to remember is if you have a wound, one wound means an additional -2 penalty on your attacks.
I thought it was minus
It's -1. You're right. It's -1 per wound. Yeah. Up to, but
actually, I forgot about that. It would have been a 15 last round, or for the reality. So.
Yeah, that's okay. We're past that now. So, first thing is the vampire is going to counterpunch at Kraken Torg. Just kind of screaming wildly. And she is going to go ahead and spend a possibility on that. So her unarmed combat total is 23.
Is that including the very vulnerable that I'm at?
No, it's not. It's 27, concluding the very vulnerable.
That would be 14 result points.
Okay. So she's going to roll 2 bonus die. And that is going to give her 25 damage total. I'm sorry, 24 damage total.
24, I have a 12 toughness.
So that's going to be 2 wounds and 4 shock.
I spend a possibility. Oak. I think I have one more. One more to increase that roll. That counts at least a 10. A 6. So 17.
17 is enough to get rid of 1 of the 2 wounds and all of the shock.
I have a wound now. No possibilities.
All right, so this Gospog is going to run up and try to attack Ulster, who's kind of in a defensive position near Gillen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of them. He gets a total of 16.
Okay, he is. It's going to be a good result because I only have an unarmed at 8.
Okay. And he does 13 damage.
Okay, I'm at 8 toughness.
So that's 1 wound and 2 shock.
Okay.
Ulster pretty heavily wounded now.
Yeah.
And as Alex continues to kind of scan the darkness, he makes out yet another 2 Gospogs starting to pull their way up out of the soil here to the south.
How low are people on possibilities?
I have one.
Yeah, 1 or 2 if you count a card.
I have a cosmic card that would give us 3. Is that if we use possibilities, we don't count it at least a 10, so it's just whatever gets rolled.
It's better than having none.
You have to play one on your turn, or you play one at a time.
You can play Cosm cards at any time.
Okay, I'm throwing this down. On this portent.
All right, everybody gets 3 possibilities. You kind of feel the wind kind of start to pick up all around you, and you can just feel like all of the evil of this place is starting to kind of array itself against you as you're getting closer to the end of the ritual. And we'll leave this one out there so to help remind us that it's in effect. Okay. And we're ready for the next turn. So you will be confused this turn, which means that you can't use cards from your pools.
At least attacks a reaction.
And the vampire is going to come after Krakentor again. Just kind of continuing to advance on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 36 total. So that'll be a plus 11, which is going to give her a 28 unarmed combat total.
And I have a 13.
All right, so that's an outstanding result. So that's a total of 7 so far. 11. That's a 20. That's 28 damage.
I have a 12 toughness.
All right, so that's going to be 17. That's 3 wounds and 6 shock.
So yeah, I will be spending a possibility. That's a 7. So I need a little bit more, so I'll add 1.
So that'll be enough to soak it all easily, I would think.
So that's -2 possibilities.
I mean, if you get over 20, then you soak everything, even in living.
Yeah, it was over 20.
Yeah. So you've soaked it all, even in a Rorsch. That's enough to soak it all. All right. So this Gospog down at the bottom in the south now. These two are going to advance on Alex and attack Alex. And they miss. And then this single one is going to... actually, it's kind of fallen to the ground. It picks back up. It's going to crawl over and attack Larkin now, because it sees him with that weapon. And its total is going to be... Oh, and you're vulnerable. So it's actually going to be +5. Their unarmed combat is going to be a 15. Okay, so they're going to roll 1 bonus. And their damage is 12.
That's got a 10 toughness, so it's 2 shock.
2 shock. And that will be the end of the villain's turn. It's Hero's turn now.
Okay.
We have possible setback, which means you can attempt step C. If you don't, you're going to have to go back and start the previous step over again.
Okay.
You can also double, if you want to, you can... actually, the rules don't really say whether you can attempt 2 steps at once when you have a setback. At least not that I know of. But in this situation, you can try to do C and D in this scenario. Or you could just try to complete C.
Well, I am disconnected, so I can't use possibilities. So if somebody else can do the faith roll, it would probably be better.
You can always try to reconnect. I mean, the first thing you're going to do is try to reconnect.
Yeah.
And then if you do, then you've got your whole turn still after that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's you can do that if you want to.
Then I'll try to reconnect. Nope. Not this round.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and do the rest of your turn, or should I go ahead and help him with the faith?
You go in and get started on that, and I'll think about what I can do.
Faith check to help him. That's all I'm going to do. Awesome.
We're attempting only step C here.
Can we do multiples?
That was kind of what I was talking through a minute ago. I wasn't sure.
I would like to. I mean, obviously, I didn't say that, so it's up to you, of course. But I don't know if we can.
Yeah, you can.
So 29, 34, 10 plus my faith is 10, so 20.
You get 20 total on each of them?
Yeah, minus 2, 18 on each.
Okay, so actually the first one is a faith test, which you pass. It's a 15. Then the second one is a reality 18 to finish it.
And my reality is also 10.
And you said your total was what? Your skill total?
That's hard. Let's see. 29, 34 is 10. So yeah, it was plus 8 on both of them, and both of them are 10. So
That's just enough. And that's with the -2, applying the -2 as well for multi-action. Was that, James, was that also applying a -2 for multi-action? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I think my internet blipped, but yes, it was.
Okay, so you're just kind of standing there fighting this Gospog, kind of praying along with Brother Gillen as he works through this, and he finally finishes the last syllable and he shouts out this last word in Latin, and you just see these Gospog that are standing in front of you, they just poof, they just fall apart into bones and earth and vines right in front of you, and you just see all of the vines that are all around you beginning to descend into the earth and shrink and disappear, and the vampire, she just stands up and she looks around and she watches and she shouts, "No, no, no!" And her voice just echoes all through the jungle around her. You hear birds beginning to take off in some of the trees that are nearby, and then she bursts again into the rats and they go scattering off into the darkness. And you're just kind of left there, sitting there in silence under the moonlight now.
Collapse.
Nice.
Get out my doctor's bag for poor Alistair. I bet you're right.
Kraken also needs help.
I just have one wound. It's not that bad.
All right, so a few hours later, you manage to make your way back to your Delphi contacts, and you're heading back out into the world, receiving pats on the back from everyone that's there, and many thanks coming, even from Brother Gillen, who's telling you that you've given him faith again, that there's a way to deal with this, that we don't have to just give up and let it happen. And with that, and the healing that's taking place in chat right now, we are finished with our adventure for today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was awesome.
Good job, guys.
Yep. Thanks for allowing me to add late too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're settled in and safe and everything, hopefully?
Yeah, we finally drove me to St. Louis, Missouri, where we got there, but it